It was supposed to be a quiet afternoon, the kind that slipped through unnoticed, the kind where the smell of coffee and fried potatoes wrapped around tired souls like a blanket. But for Emma, sitting by the window in her wheelchair, that diner became the place where her faith in humanity cracked before it was rebuilt stronger than ever, because Emma had learned early in life how to make herself small, how to fold her pain inward and smile politely at a world that often stared too long or looked away too fast. And that day she was waiting for her bus home after a physical therapy session, hands folded in her lap, scarf tucked neatly around her neck, eyes focused on the steam rising from her mug, when laughter cut through the air like a blade, sharp and careless, and before she could lift her head, a group of teenage boys crowded around her booth, their sneakers scraping the floor, their voices loud with the confidence of those who had never been told no, and at first it was the comments, snickers about her chair, jokes whispered too loudly, mocking questions about whether she could even feel her legs, and Emma did what she always did, she stayed quiet, hoping silence would make her invisible, but cruelty feeds on silence, and one boy leaned in too close, his breath heavy with soda and fries, another tugged at her scarf, and when she tried to speak, to ask them to stop, a hand came out of nowhere and slapped her cheek, not hard enough to break skin, but hard enough to shatter dignity, the sound echoing in the diner as conversations died and forks froze midair, and for a heartbeat the world stopped. Emma's face burned, tears stung her eyes, and the boys laughed, high and ugly, basking in the power of the moment, and no one moved, not the waitress behind the counter, not the man reading a newspaper, not the couple in the corner, because fear has a way of gluing people to their seats, and Emma felt it then, the familiar weight of being alone in a crowded room. Of realizing that sometimes the worst pain isn't physical but the knowledge that you don't matter enough for someone to stand up, and as the boys finally wandered back to their booth, still laughing, Emma stared down at her hands, her whole body trembling, wishing she could roll herself out of that place and out of that memory forever, and she didn't notice the waitress quietly dialing a phone number behind the counter, her hands shaking with anger, or the older man near the door who slipped outside, eyes hard, making a call of his own, because kindness often works in silence too. And about an hour later, when the boys were still there, sprawled and loud, when Emma was still waiting for her bus, trying to breathe through the ache in her chest, the door to the diner opened again, and the air changed. It wasn't loud at first, just the heavy rhythm of boots on tile, slow and deliberate, and one by one, men walked in wearing worn leather jackets and faces carved by years of wind, roads, and choices, their presence pulling attention like gravity, conversations fading as heads turned, and there was something in the way they moved, calm but coiled, that made even the boys fall quiet, because these weren't men who needed to shout to be heard, and they took seats along the counter and near the booths, ordering coffee, nodding politely, as if nothing were wrong, but eyes watched everything, and Emma felt it before she understood it, a sense of being seen, truly seen, not as a burden or a joke, but as a person, and one of the bikers, a tall man with a graying beard and tired eyes, stood and walked toward her, slowly, carefully, stopping a respectful distance away, and he asked softly if she was all right, not loudly, not dramatically, just enough for her to hear, and something in his voice broke the dam she'd been holding back, and she nodded, tears slipping free, and he listened as she spoke, really listened, without interrupting, without pity, and when she finished, he placed a napkin gently on the table and said, "No one deserves that," and then he turned, and that was when the room truly shifted, because he didn't yell, he didn't threaten, he simply walked back to his friends, and together they stood, a line of leather and resolve, and approached the boys' booth, and suddenly the laughter from earlier felt small and stupid, swallowed by the weight of consequences, and the leader spoke calmly, explaining respect in words so simple they cut deeper than anger, telling the boys that strength was never proven by hurting someone who couldn't fight back, that real power was knowing when to protect, and the boys tried to joke at first, then to argue, but confidence drained from their faces as they realized no one was laughing anymore, and when the bikers finished, they didn't touch them, didn't raise a hand, they simply waited, and one by one, the boys stood, faces red, eyes down, mumbling apologies that finally sounded real, and one of them turned to Emma and said he was sorry, truly sorry, and Emma felt something unexpected then, not triumph, but release, as if a knot inside her loosened, and the boys left quickly, the door swinging shut behind them, and the diner exhaled, sound rushing back in, and the bikers returned to their seats, quietly finishing their coffee, refusing thanks, refusing praise, because to them it wasn't heroism, it was duty, and when Emma's bus finally arrived, the graying-bearded man held the door open for her, smiling gently, and as she rolled past, he said, "You matter more than you know," and for the first time that day, Emma believed it, and as the bus pulled away, she looked back at the diner, at the place where she'd been humiliated and then defended, and she realized something powerful, that the world is full of people who will hurt you. Yes, but it is also full of strangers who will stand up when it counts, even if it takes an hour, even if it happens quietly. And if this story moved you, if it reminded you that kindness still rides and when hope feels gone, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because every story you support helps us share more moments that restore faith, more reminders that courage comes in many forms, and together, we can make sure stories like Emma's are heard, remembered, and never ignored again.